Speaking of inconceivable and moves or lack thereof that are being made, let's spend a little bit of time talking about the Detroit Tigers. So, the winter meetings, I don't know if they ended or if they're still kind of happening. I don't really know how these things work, to be honest with you guys. But the winter meetings are going on or have gone on. I don't know. Again, you're asking the wrong guy. Now, the Tigers, like pretty much every team, have made some moves. Here are the moves. They brought back Gleyber Torres. Solid. I like Gleyber. They signed Kenley Jansen to a 1-year deal. They re-signed Kyle Finnegan to a 2-year deal. And they signed Drew Anderson.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
That was my feeling about these moves. That is. I have a question. Why am I supposed to care about this team? Why? Give me a reason, Scott Harris. You're signing Drew Anderson. You're signing Kyle Finnegan and Kenley Jansen. Why? Why would I care? Why should I care? The Tigers last year had the division in their hand. They fumbled that. They lost the divisional round. They had that in their hand on multiple occasions. They fumbled that. Hitting has been a concern on this team basically since like 2017. And yet, this team, whether it was Al Avila before him, and now Scott Harris, refuses on principle, seemingly, to sign a bigger name bat, to sign anybody of note. Anybody. I'm not asking for Alex Bregman, but anybody. Like, you don't want to sign any bat to this lineup? Like, nobody to insulate the young core that will, be added in throughout as every year you have prospects that come up and take roster. You don't want to do anything? That, to me, is malpractice. When he first got here and he didn't do much, okay. It's roster assessment, see what you got. Maybe pick up some guys on waivers, cheap, low risk, high reward. Maybe you got that in Zach McKinstry, a solid utility player. Last year was a silver slugger, which is kind of funny, but whatever. Like, you got some value out of a Zach McKinstry. You even got some value out of a Matt Vierling, although his value, I think, is significantly dipped due to the fact that he didn't play very much last year, and when he did play, wasn't very good. 2024, you're like, okay, the offense is really terrible, but maybe you could show something. Maybe you go out and you could sign some names. Didn't really do much. Okay, didn't really do much at all. Okay, once again the offense is terrible. Looks like they're going to miss the playoff, but then hey, they turn it around. They make the playoffs. What a fun run! Let's build around this team. Let's go out and get some bats. Let's really insulate this team that was carried by some amazing pitching down the stretch and some really great game management by AJ Hinch. And they signed Gleyber Torres. And that's it. They don't do anything else. Now, what you might say if you want to be a positive Penelope, which I'm willing to be, a positive Penelope, you might say, they brought up Dylan Dingler, came out. He was a great player for him. Riley Green, he had a great season overall, but granted the strikeouts were not great. Spencer Torkelson took that step forward that we needed to see him take, had a good season for the team. Javier Baez emerged as, actually a player worth putting on the lineup. But ultimately, I defer to what happened last year. You collapsed. Your hitting couldn't score anything down the stretch. I mean, you were losing games like 2-1 because you just couldn't string together hits, period. And you're telling me that after what I watched last year, and then after what I watched in the postseason, going 15 innings and not being able to score not one run in 15 innings, Or I guess they scored more than one run in 15. What did they score? 2 total runs in 15 innings? Unforgivable. That's unforgivable. How can you look at that and say, you know what we need? We need Drew Anderson and a bunch of kids coming up. We need Drew Anderson and Kevin McGonigal to save us. If Kevin McGonigal was Derek Jeter, he'd be on the team. He would have been on the team last year. So I am going to be skeptical until all doubt is removed. But to me, the cream of the crop, the coup de grace of what I think is complete and utter embarrassing mismanagement is what is going on with Tarek Skubal. Evan Petzold, who I believe writes for the Detroit Free Press, could be wrong about that, but either way, he's a Detroit Tigers beat writer. He reported in an interview he did with 97.1 The Ticket, the big Detroit sports radio flagship station. He reported that he does not expect the Tigers to trade Tarek Skubal. Okay. He does not expect the Tigers to sign Tarek Skubal. Okay. And furthermore, he does not expect the Tigers to go all in and build around Tarek Skubal for a short-term, win now kind of scenario. One last hurrah. And I once again go back to the question I topped this segment with. Why am I supposed to care? Why am I supposed to care if clearly Scott Harris doesn't seem to care? I understand. I don't want to calumniate the man. I'm sure he wants to win. But his strategy does not come off to me as somebody with any sense of urgency in the midst of a player, a superstar caliber pitcher, a back-to-back Cy Young winning pitcher who is just absolutely elite, and that your organization developed. You have seemingly no interest in wanting to go all in or trade him for a haul if you could, or trade him for anything. I don't know how to help you at that point. If you don't want to make yourself better, and if you think you have unlimited time, then I guess you got unlimited time. And I know for a lot of people, it becomes a reflex to just be like, blame Chris Ilitch, not the GM's fault. Chris Ilitch. Okay. There's only so much that you can do with your owner. You can complain about the owner. You can say the owner is annoying. You can say the owner's cheap. But whether or not the owner is cheap or not, the guy making the moves is the general manager, is the president of baseball ops, and that's Scott Harris. He's the one who seems to not want to pick up any bats at all, to just let the kids play. He's the one who says, okay, my owner's cheap. I'll just run it back with the squad we have. What's the point of that? If Tarek Skubal is just going to walk after this year, why? And you're probably not going to win the World Series with the roster as is. Why don't you trade him? Is that so shocking? I love Tarek Skubal. I would rather they don't trade him. I would rather they sign him, and you deal with the ramifications of a long-term deal to a pitcher like him in the way you deal with it. Okay, you deal with it like the Dodgers dealt with Clayton Kershaw in the later years. Okay, I just, in my mind, the way to success in all sports: bring in good players, remove bad players. I don't understand what the approach is, if not just total obfuscation. Just, we want to build our own guys. We want to be like the Tampa Bay Rays or something. Like, if this is going to be the offseason, if the offseason is 2 years more of Kyle Finnegan and an extra year of Gleyber Torres and Kenley Jansen, and Drew Anderson is supposed to be your fifth arm in the rotation, yeah, I'm not interested in that. I want it to work. I do. Whatever. I don't care if If they go out this year and they go 40-10 in their first 50 games, you're not gonna be here complaining from me. But I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. Almost certainly, it's not going to happen. And even if it does happen, we saw what happened last year when this team got off to a red-hot start and they completely fumbled it when reality, of course, has a say. In a 162-game season, reality has a say. And usually, what that means is the teams with superstar hitters, they play like superstar hitters, and they drag those teams to success. Looking at Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan, who do we have that are those caliber kind of players? We have Riley Green, and we have friends. Basically, we have Riley Green and friends. And let me tell you something. I like Riley Green. If Riley Green's your best player, you're not winning the World Series. You're just not. Unless Riley Green becomes Aaron Judge next year and also gains a way greater plate discipline to where he's drawing walks and lengthening at bats and not just swinging away like he's, Merrill from Signs, the Mel Gibson movie. He's just swinging at everything that he sees. That's such a deep cut reference. I don't know if anybody's going to get that. Unless he's, Barry Bonds and he just hits everything into the seats, you're not going to go very far. You're just not. Because a high strikeout player in the playoffs is not going to lead you to success. It's just not. And your lineup right now, as it stands, is not deep enough to be able to compete with the likes of Seattle. It's not deep enough to compete with the likes of Toronto. It's not even really deep enough to compete with the likes of New York. So it's a demoralizing offseason so far. Things could change, I guess, but frankly, I don't have a whole lot of reason to believe they will. So, uplifting stuff. I know. Hey, YouTube, if you like clips like that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We've got live shows every Tuesday night. Hope to see you there.